Think you'd never fall for a romance scam? Guess what? Every year, thousands of men and women do. But you know what? What I've learned over the years is that there are very specific things that we can look for, and I'm here to share the top 10 with you. Hi, my name is Lisa. I am a retired teacher and counselor, a proud grandma, and I first started my journey online in 2010. And I'm not going to be here to discredit online dating because I've seen it work. There's a few of my friends who have found Mr. Right on the other side of their phone screen. And they're happily married today. But there are people out there who are using this online dating tool as a way of getting to you and getting to your wallet. So let's start with the really big red flag. Flag number one is it seems like it's almost too good to be true, because it usually is. So they tend to present themselves, especially the men, as like a high-ranking military officer or someone who works in international humanitarian type businesses, or they're architects. They're oil riggers, so they got the big strong guys, on the oil rigs, or they're working with Doctors Without Borders, things like that. And I tell you what, their pictures almost looked a little too staged. There seems to be a really high quality to the pictures that is just a little too nice for, the average person, the way that we take selfies. Flag number two is they tend to say that they work overseas. And now this really works to their benefit because they can have all kinds of excuses as to why they weren't able to meet up with you for a certain phone call. They can't meet you face to face. They've always got some sort of business meeting going on and it makes them very difficult to get a hold of. They have a really jet set kind of lifestyle that seems really appealing and exciting, and that overseas connection just makes it even that much more exciting for us. And if we lived in Europe, they would say that they're in Canada or the US, and if we're in Canada or the US, they say they're in Europe or Asia or someplace overseas, just making it that much more difficult to actually do the face-to-face. Flag number three, they will avoid having face-to-face kind of meetings. They will call you, for sure. Because they work overseas, they have certain things that come up that wouldn't normally come up if they were working just a regular 9 to 5 in your neighborhood. So they're going to have Wi-Fi issues. Sorry, hon, I couldn't get a hold of you because our Wi-Fi is down again. I'm out in this remote place where the internet's not available, or I'm on the safari and we don't have internet. And if they do happen to do some sort of FaceTime kind of call, the picture is really jerky and it almost looks like their mouth is going and their body is going in a different direction. There's an app that can actually make a person look like they're talking and all they're doing is using a still photo. If the picture is weird, then chances are you're being scammed. Flag number four, and this applies to everybody, not even if you're just being, scammed. Look out for people who fall too fast. You're getting love bombed. And when they are saying things like, I love you, and I've never met anybody like you, and I've been looking my whole life for you, and it's the second week, be leery. Just be leery. Be careful, because your average bear doesn't fall head over heels like this that fast. Yes, there's the odd story out there where people met, fell in love, it was like love at first sight, and they get married 2 months later, and now they're happily married 50 years later, right? But that is the exception to the rule. So really be careful when they start they use the words babe a lot. I noticed that. It's always babe and dear, and they give you all these little silly little nicknames. The reason for it, this is my own personal belief, the reason that they give you all these little nicknames is because they can't keep all the people's real names straight, right? So if they got 5 or 6 people on the line, they don't want to be calling, you Diane when your name is Lisa. So they just use the nicknames babe, and then it applies to everybody. Flag number 5 is they have some kind of tragic story to tell you. So normally it's something like they are a widower and they are a single dad, and being overseas and trying to look after their child at the same time is really, really tough. Perhaps they just went through a massive breakup and it just crushed them, and you are healing them in a way that they never thought possible. And of course, the caring nature of you is going to say, I can be that salve for you. I can help you with that emotional healing because you care about them. And what they're basically doing is just creating that bond through emotional trauma and making it so that you're there for them in a much faster way than you normally would be. But talking about their story, that leads me to the next flag, and that's that there's always these inconsistent details about their story. Things just don't add up. And when you start asking them questions, they always have some kind of justification or rationalization. But when you press them for details or ask them to clarify certain things, they'll push back. And they'll always have some kind of rationalization for why they said what they did, or maybe they'll gaslight you and say, no, I didn't say it that way. You'll also notice that sometimes there's going to be grammatical errors, but when you ask them about that or tease them about it, I'm an English teacher, so that's what I would be doing. But what they'll do is they'll just use the excuse of second and third languages, and they get them confused and stuff like that, right? So just be aware of those types of things. A huge flag, and not just for the people who are trying to scam you for money, but just people who are insincere. They'll try to get you off the platform. So if you are on, there's Plenty of Fish and Match.com and a whole bunch of different apps out there, they'll try to get you off the app that you're on and get you into something a little more private. So email or Telegram or WhatsApp, because they just find that they can manipulate you more when you're on an app on a one-to-one, and they're trying to get you away from interacting with other people on the dating site. Another big flag tends to be the pictures that they show you. So I mentioned earlier that sometimes they just look a little too good to be true, but sometimes these pictures can almost look like stock footage, and what they tend to do is use photos of people from, if you live in Canada, they're going to use pictures from someone in Argentina, on a Facebook page that we probably wouldn't interact with, or the chances are we wouldn't be interacting with them. But there are a couple of links that you can use, and I'm going to put them in my descriptor below, where you can take the URL of that picture and reverse it to see where that picture came from. So you can see for yourself if this picture is legit or not. Now we're going to get into some dicey stuff. The number one way you know you are being scammed is when they start asking you for money. And there's going to be some reason that they're going to ask you for it. Like, you already think that they have a lot of money. So when they say that they are short, you're going to think, well, it's just a one-off and I can help them out now. And I know they're good for it, so they're going to give it back to me. And so then you think you're safe, right? But the fact that they're asking you for money should be a massive red flag. Even though they are going to concoct some kind of emergency. I'm not going to be able to get out of the country. I'm not going to be able to pay these taxes. I'm not going to be able to get my visa through unless I get this money. I'm not going to be able to close this deal unless, something happened to my bank card. It got locked out or I was mugged. They're going to come up with some kind of emergency. Please do not fall for it. And the next red flag that goes along with that is they will guilt you into this. They will say things like, if you really loved me, if you really cared for me, then you would help me do this. They will use that guilt trip to the nth degree. Please don't fall for it. Let me share a story with you about a friend of mine. This is a true story. A friend of mine fell for this very handsome man online. He was working overseas. I think he was an architect, something along those lines. And of course, he was handsome. He spoke multiple languages and he was a painter. He actually painted her this fabulous piece overnight. Anyone who knows anything about painting knows you cannot finish a masterpiece like what he took a picture of and showed to her, that he had done this for her. That should have been a big red flag for her, but it wasn't. Because you want to believe. Like, you want so much to believe that this is the catch of the year and you've got them, right? But there was red flags, woo, 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 going off for me all the time. And I kept warning her, and I said, please, the next step will be he will ask you for money. And she's, no, he would never do that. And that's not what this is all about, Lisa. And I was, okay. And probably a week and a half later, she shows up at my doorstep, like my office, and all teary-eyed, because he had asked her for $30,000. And of course, it was some kind of an emergency. I don't remember what the story was, something to do with his business wasn't going to go through unless he got the 30 grand. And, you know, it's just, of course, he's got the money, but he just needed this to tie him over for a few days sort of thing, right? It was just such a classic scheme. And my friend got a huge heart, very intelligent woman, but sometimes our hearts basically shut off the connection to our brain. And because we want it to work out so bad. And there we go. There's my top 10 red flags for you to look out for if you're going to be on online dating. But you know what? What I've noticed is that these things don't apply to just online dating anymore. I've really noticed an increase in how these people are reaching out to us in all of our social media platforms. TikTok, Facebook, even LinkedIn. I had an incident of this in LinkedIn, of all places. They're going to reach out, try to make that connection. They will flatter you to the nth degree. The bottom line is they're trying to make an emotional connection so that when they ask you for money, then you will feel some sort of obligation to them. You'll feel like you can trust them. You know what? We all deserve to fall in love. And there are a lot of really wonderful people out there. So hopefully this list has helped us to sort of, you know, sift through the people who we don't want to be involved with and find love with someone who is really honest, down to earth, has that integrity. And hopefully this list has been able to help you spot the scammer before the scammer spots you. If you happen to find this video helpful, I would really appreciate you liking, subscribing. It really helps out with the algorithm. And until next time, all you midlife mavericks, remember, your second act is the best one yet.